In this video tutorial series, I'm going to show you how to use this great website called Cubicraft, which is a paper craft art website, and then bring it into the Blender game engine, which is the UpBGE game engine, and to model it and UV map it, which just means to get the textures all on the cubes and end up with a digital version of a Cubicraft character. Okay, so the two apps that we'll be using, of course, is the Cubicraft website. Here's the website right here. And then we are using the UpBGE program. Now you could use regular good old Blender for this, but this is for my video game class. So we are using UpBGE, and you can go here to download and download the correct version for you. Okay, so this first video is going to be the setup. So I'm going to go to cubicraft.com, and there is a search up here, so you can search for specific characters. But I would start off down here under fan art, and then you'll see that you get a whole bunch of different characters here. And again, it looks like there's only 3 pages, but once you keep clicking, you'll see that there's a whole bunch more. Okay, so the way it works is when you click on a image, you'll then see the character in its entirety. You'll see a difficulty rating, but this is if you're going to actually print it out and cut it and assemble it. You won't really get to see what the character looks like until you click on download. All right, so I searched for Indiana Jones earlier because that's the character that I'm going to model. And here's good old Indy, and I've already pressed download. It'll either download as a single image, or it'll download, like mine did, as a zip file. So if it downloads as a zip file, you're then going to go to your downloads folder, and you're going to double click the zip file, and you'll then get a folder that has the images inside it. And you can see here on my Indiana Jones, you can see that his head, his hat, or at least the brim of his hat here, and he's got his gun right there. And then this other image is the totem here, and then the rest of his body. So we'll have to use both. Okay, so now that we've got that unzipped, now we can head on over to UpBGE and get things going here. So the first thing you want to do is in Blender UpBGE, you're going to want to go ahead and get into front view. So you press numpad 1, and that switches you to front view. Then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to add in the reference image. So press Shift A, and then go down here to Image and choose Reference. Then you're going to go look inside your Downloads folder, open it up, and I always like to start off with the character heads. So I'm going to start with that image right there and load reference image. And so it comes on in. Now this one's got an interesting challenge here in that the head is rotated, and the only reason why they did that is so that it's a better usage of the paper if you were to actually print this out. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to get my file organized here. So up here in the top right-hand corner, the image comes in labeled as an empty, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call this head ref, so I know what it is. And then I'll go ahead and I'll save my file here by doing File Save. I'll save it onto my desktop, and I'll go ahead and I'll just call this Indy, and it's going to be a UV. Actually, call it Cubicraft. Makes a little more sense. I'll put in the letters UV. Okay, so now it's saved to my desktop. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to select the image over here, and then down here on the right, I want to click on this little red icon here, and you're going to see there's an option that says opacity. So you want to enable opacity, and then you can lower the opacity, and now you can actually see through the image. So I like to usually go a little bit lower than 0.5. So again, you can kind of play around with that. Okay, so now I'm going to hide the cube here for just a second by clicking on the little eyeball here under cube. And now I want to take the image here and I want to rotate it. So with it selected, I'll press R and I'll do rotate. And I want to get it so that his head is nice and straight here on the x-axis. So let me zoom in a little bit. I can press G and grab it and get the line. You can see use the black line as reference. Again, I can press R a little bit It doesn't have to be perfect, but I want it to be pretty good. So again, I'm just lining up that bottom black line where his chin is to the red x-axis. Okay, good. So now I'll press G, and then I'm going to go ahead and try to get it nice and centered here. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring it up like that. And there we go. Okay, so now I'm going to bring the cube back. I'm going to rename the cube, so I'll just double click and I'll go ahead and just call this head. There we go. And to be able to see through the cube here, you can do a couple of different things here for modeling. So the first thing you can do is you can turn on X-ray mode. And X-ray mode is Option Z on a Mac or Alt Z on a Windows machine. You can also click on this little button up here in the top right and turn that on and off. So that's what I'm going to do. The other option that you could do if you really don't like that is you could press the letter Z and then you could go into wireframe mode. So it really depends on your preference. I'm going to stick with X-ray mode here. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to press Tab and I want to get into edit mode. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to S and scale, G to grab, and I'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to A twice to deselect. So now I'm going to box select these different sides of the cube and move them and grab them up, and so that they're the right size of the head. Okay, so I'm going to do B for box select, and I'm going to click and drag and select this right side. Then I'm going to press G to grab it, and I could just move it manually, but it's better for me to type in X, and I'm going to slide it along the X axis. So something like that. A twice to deselect, B to box select, and I'm going to select the bottom face, G for grab, Z for the Z axis, and I'll bring it up like that. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'll press Option Z. Yep, and that looks good there. Okay, so that's looking good from the front view. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press numpad 3, and I'm going to switch to the side view. Here we go, and this is the image, that line right there. That's the image in the background or in the middle there. Okay, so now I want to make sure that the cube is the same on all sides. So it's a nice perfect square, which is what the head is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Tab and I'm going to go back into object mode. And then I'm going to press the letter N, N as in numeric or number. And you're going to see these 3 tabs show up over here on the right-hand side. And I want to click on the very first tab called Item. And what you'll see is down here it says Dimensions. And I know that the x-axis is correct. And so mine is saying that it's 1.02 on the x-axis. It's also saying that it's 1.02 on the z-axis, so I know that those two are correct. So I want the y-axis to be the exact same, so I'll just click there and I'll type in 1.02, press return, and now I can see that from the side view it's a perfect square. Okay, good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save. All right, so the next step now is to UV unwrap this and apply this texture to the cube and get it looking good with UVs. So we will go ahead and do the UV texturing in the next video. Try to keep these videos short and sweet. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, everyone.